Welcome to episode 10 of Secret City Geek Lab, your resource for everything geek. We'll talk movies, TV, comic books, video games, and anything geek. I'm your host, Alan Ng, and you'll hear from me and members of the improv comedy group, Secret City Comic Society. So this week we feature Will Acker, Melissa Kirkpatrick, Sophia Bein, and Joey Shope. Today's show is brought to you by Secret City Comic Society, the best in all ages improv comedy in downtown Fullerton. Visit Secret City Comedy and the Geek Lab at secretcitycomedy.com. Coming up this week, Iron Man 3. Video game reviews of Farcry 3, Blood Dragon, and Dead Island Riptide. But we're going to start off with a special announcement from the IDW panel at WonderCon.
Greg will probably want to talk more about this, but we announced recently that we are doing a collection of the Superman and some of the other DC Comics superhero newspaper strips.
So this was a dream of mine and many others at IDW, was to be able to publish in complete form the many DC superhero strips from the Golden Age right through the Silver Age. Many of you who were interested in this sort of thing may know that Kitchen Sink had started publishing primarily the Golden Age strips back about 20 years ago. And those books have actually been reprinted a number of times under great books, but they stopped, and they stopped way too early. In the case of Superman, if my math is correct, over 25 years there are nearly 10,000 strips, most of which have never been reprinted.
806,069.
And the reason Mark Waid knows that, ladies and gentlemen, is it turns out, and I didn't know this until a month ago, that Mark is an obsessive collector of the Superman strips, and many of the strips in our multi-volume series are coming from his personal collection. So, in fact, Rebecca has just been done scanning the Superman Dailies, which took a bit, and then she thought she was done. And then the Sundays came last week.
Yeah.
And, I mean, honestly, we're really excited. Those of you that follow our strip reprints for the Library of American Comics, you know that we've become the premier publisher in this category. We recently, right before this announcement, had announced Tarzan by Russ Manning, which is very exciting and is due in the next 2 months. And the line of DC heroes, I think, is going to be terrific. So, Mark, tell us a little bit about why you thought Superman.
Sure. Well, I mean, what's exciting to me about this, and I think you'll be able to make a little bit more hay out of once you actually get the material out there and people see, is that, you know, as I've said for years, Scott and I talk all the time about, you know, what are the kind of things you got coming up? What are the special reprint projects you got coming up? And we were talking, about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and I just spitball, and I said, you know, I really would love to see you guys do at some point. Which DC would give up the license to reprint all those original newspaper strips, especially the Sundays, because I'm the only person in the world with an entire collection of them from start to finish. And there was a pause, and Scott said, say that again. And it was just, and it's a dream come true on a lot of levels, not the least of which is I finally get to see this stuff in print. I'm the only person I'm the only carbon-based life form in the universe who has a complete run of Sundays that I put together over the years, which ran from 1939 to 1966. And all they do is sit in my closet. And, you know, they're lovely to read, but, man, I wanted them to be out there, and they struck this deal, and that's great. And what people are going to find out as they read these stories is that there's tons and tons and tons of Superman stories that you've never seen before. This is, when you get into the late 60s, they started sort of recycling some of the comic book stories in comic strip form. But in the 40s, the 50s, early 60s, they were doing completely original strips. You'll see, you know, that Lois and Clark were married for a couple of years in the 1950s. You know, you'll meet versions of Bizarro and Metallo and other Superman villains that are not quite what you expect them to be because they were changed for the newspaper strip, and a lot of times they debuted in the newspaper strips and then made their way into comics later. So it's a font of history. I love this stuff, and that's, you know, so whenever I can do to participate, I'm glad to do it. I'm just glad to see this stuff out there.
I have a question for you. I always, since I've never seen the actual full run, but Brainiac was introduced in the strip around the same time he was introduced in the comic.
Yeah, actually, but he was called something else altogether. He was called a villain. He was a villain named Romado, which is arguably a worse name than Brainiac. and so the entire what became the first Brainiac story in the comics was actually a much, much longer, almost a half a year's worth of continuity in the daily strips. It took wild turns, and it was just, it's this Twilight Zone experience of reading a story that you've known all your life, but it's drawn by a completely different Superman artist, and it goes in left and right directions that you never expected. It's very strange, but it's really, again, there's a lot of history buried in those strips.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say, not to put too fine a point on all this, because I know we're talking about just a book here, or a series of books, but by the end of 2013, as a competitor to Marvel and DC and Archie and others, like, we will have published Archie, Fantastic Four, Superman, The Spirit, Thor, Spider-Man. Like, it's amazing to me not only that we're doing these books, but that Marvel and DC and Archie and others have been such good partners to allow us to do this, because they're allowing their competitors to publish books with their characters. And I think just in the spirit of cooperation and getting good material out there, I love that they are trusting to do this and that we can do this with them.
Because you guys, I'm speaking from the outside, because you guys have a reputation for quality, because you are the preeminent publisher of these high-profile, higher class, higher ticket books, because you do them right, and everybody else in the industry trusts you to do it in ways that they can't even, make the time and energy to do. You guys can do it right.
Which I think also speaks to guys like Dean Mulaney and Craig Gill, and especially Scott Dewey, who are probably the three best archivists in all of comics right now, who are just doing this amazing work of bringing this material back in a format that is lasting and amazing to look at. So let's hear it for Scott Dewey, please.
It's pretty amazing that no one or no company really has all of these comic strips that were printed in the newspapers from so long. You would think that it'd be some kind of archive or some them existing somewhere, but no. Mark Waid, the famous comic book writer, he holds the entire collection of the Superman daily comic strip from the Sunday papers. So Superman, the Silver Age newspaper Dailies, Volume 1, from 1958 to 1961, features nearly 800 strips from classic artists Kurt Swan, Wayne Boring, and Stan Kaye. And the release date is set for July of this year. You listen to KTST-FM, and this is the Secret City Geek Lab. I'm Alan Ng, your host. This week, we're going to talk a lot about Iron Man 3. It just came out this week, and let's play that little trailer.
It's go time.
Iron Man 3 is the movie event critics are calling bold, brilliant, thrilling. It's the best Iron Man ever.
Do you understand what an epic moment this is for me?
All right, let's go.
Yeah!
Iron Man 3. Rated PG-13 in theaters and IMAX 3D.
It's already opened really big, this Iron Man. On the first opening weekend, it made $175 million, making it the biggest box office opener just behind Marvel's The Avengers at $207 million. Internationally, it has already earned at this point $504 million, making the take so far $680 million. It's currently certified fresh at Rotten Tomatoes at 79%, but there's really only one review that counts, and that review is mine. Marvel's Iron Man 3 pits brash but brilliant industrialist Tony Stark / Iron Man against an enemy whose reach knows no bounds. When Stark finds his personal world destroyed at his enemy's hands, he embarks on a harrowing quest to find those responsible. This journey at every turn will test his mettle. With his back against the wall, Stark is left to survive by his own devices, relying on his ingenuity and instincts to protect those closest to him. As he fights his way back, Stark discovers the answer to the question that has secretly haunted him. Does the man make the suit, or does the suit make the man? Iron Man 3 was written by Shane Black and directed by Shane Black. It stars Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, Gwyneth Paltrow as Virginia Pepper Potts, Don Cheadle as James Rhodey Rhodes, Guy Pearce plays Aldrich Killian, Rebecca Hall plays Dr. Maya Hansen, Jon Favreau as Happy Hogan, and Ben Kingsley as the terrorist the Mandarin. Robert Downey Jr. is the best thing about Iron Man 3. Only an actor of his caliber could literally carry this movie. He can drop his playful one-liners, pull off panic attacks, and keep us interested in the developments of his character. In addition, Ben Kingsley made the perfect Mandarin. He is able to pull off the terror aspect of a terrorist. Special attention should go to Ty Simpkin, who played the kid Harley. He had unbelievable banter with Tony Stark. He was also able to develop and create his own character, and he was the bright spot in the middle of this movie. I also like the tone that Shane Black brought to this movie. It was all about Tony, and everything on screen touched upon his weaknesses and challenged those weaknesses. The action scenes were amazing. Even the Air Force One rescue that you see all the time in the commercials was still exciting to watch. Iron Man is a trilogy. If you take Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, it gives you the complete story of Tony Stark, beginning, middle, and end. And if you end with Iron Man 3, you've got that complete package.
Question is, how are they going to bring Tony back into Avengers 2? There are a few things that struck out at me as being inconsistent, such as the way you would deal with the bio-enhanced extremist soldiers. I never really got an understanding of how you defeat these guys. How exactly do you kill them? Do you crush them? Do you blow them up? They just keep coming back, and there wasn't really a clear answer as to how to stop them. The character Dr. Maya Hansen was also not well developed. She appears in the movie, moves the plot along, and then is done, and I wasn't really sure how I should feel about her and her character. Overall, I love the story. I like the reality of Tony Stark that Robert Downey Jr. brought to the story. He played him as a person, not as this alien superhero with powers. You'll have a lot of fun. The ending credits are incredible, but the ending scene, that's the thing you wait for at the end of every Marvel movie, just really didn't live up to my expectations on this one. From a scale from 1 to 10, I give Iron Man 3 a 9. This is Secret City Iron Man movie review.
Continuing on with our Iron Man 3 review, it was such a big movie that a lot of members of Secret City had a chance to watch that movie, and I had a chance to ask them what they thought about that movie. First up, here's Will Acker.
I'm here with Will Acker. What did you think of Iron Man?
I really liked it. I thought it was definitely not as good as 1, but definitely as good or better than 2. A lot of things I liked. I did like Robert Downey Jr. playing kind of the Tony Stark, seeing what Tony Stark would do instead of kind of having the suit take all the kind of the roles. He was a little more, like showing Tony Stark as this genius engineer and kind of be able to do all these things. Ben Kingsley as Mandarin was fantastic. He had a great role. He did a really good job.
What did you not like about the
The Extremist was kind of a little confusing. A lot of the reasons why the main character was using this to fight Iron Man, it didn't really make sense. If he needed Tony to help him with the Extremist project, or he wanted Tony out of the business to take over the company, that was kind of confusing. It didn't quite make sense.
And the PTSD.
Yeah, and then Tony kind of had this whole, after New York, after the whole Avengers thing, he had this kind of post-traumatic stress disorder kind of issue going on where he was having anxiety attacks and he was not really like himself, and that kind of just weakened the character. We had saw a lot of that in Iron Man 2 with the whole palladium, getting poisoned by palladium, and we saw that, and I kind of wanted to see something different from that, and that was my my only problems with the movie.
Okay, from a scale from 1 to 10.
Definitely a solid 7.
Okay, great.
I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, what did Melissa Kirkpatrick think of Iron Man 3? Here's what she thought.
I'm here with Melissa Kirkpatrick. What did you think of Iron Man 3?
I loved it. I thought it was the best Iron Man yet.
All right, what did you like about Iron Man?
Well, of course, Robert Downey Jr. is amazing. I thought he was even more amazing in this one. His acting was phenomenal. I love the effects. They were just like non-stop, like mind-blowing effects. Oh, man. Lots and lots of twists.
All right, what did you not like about the movie?
I didn't like Ben Kingsley's role very much.
Okay, we're not going to spoil that, but...
I'm just going to say, that's all I'm going to say with that.
All right. And from a scale from 1 to 10, what would you give Iron Man 3?
I would give it an 8.
And lastly, we asked our fellow member Sophia Bein what she thought of Iron Man 3, and she gave a little bit of a different answer.
Okay, I'm here with Sophia Bein. What did you think of Iron Man 3?
I thought it was okay. I thought it was very entertaining. And I thought that number 1 was the best, number 3 was second best, and the second one was the worst.
Okay, what did you like about the movie?
What I liked about the movie was how they expanded Tony Stark's character, and all the things that he was struggling with, like, is very realistic for what he had been through with the Avengers, and I like how they kind of made it bookend with the third film. Mm-hmm. So, like, if they were to stop making Iron Man films, like, it's fine. Like, it's a perfect finished trilogy, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what did you not like about it?
I didn't care for the villain. I felt like the villain was a tad unrealistic, personally, in terms of how I personally would have developed a character. Uh-huh. And it was so action-packed that it didn't really leave enough room for, I guess, more growth. Everything was, like, fast-paced.
So from a scale from 1 to 10?
1 to 10, I'd give it a solid 8 in terms of entertainment value.
Okay, great.
You listen to KTSTFM and the Secret City Geek Lab. I'm Alan A. Moving along, we're getting away from Iron Man and we're moving to video games. We got 2 reviews today, and the first one is Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. This standalone download is a new edition of the Far Cry series that transports gamers to a retro-futuristic, neon-soaked post-apocalyptic 2007, where they battle mutant dragons and evil cyborgs to forge a path to peace. Tough work, but a total blast. You play Sergeant Rex Colt, Mark IV Cyber Commando. The year is 2007, and Earth has been ravaged by nuclear war, which erupted in the 90s. The East versus West conflict has raged for generations, and humanity continues to struggle to progress after a disastrous decade. New paths for peace must be found, and the U.S. cyborg army may have found a solution. A powerful bioweapon on a distant island. Your mission is to gather information and figure out what the hell is going on. This game is rated M, and is available on Xbox 360, PS3, and PC, and our own Joey Shope comes in with the review. I'm here with Joey Shope, and we're talking Far Cry 3.
Blood Dragon.
Blood Dragon. You played this on the Xbox 360.
That's right. This game is pretty interesting because it's a DLC game. That stands for downloadable content. For those of you who don't know, when you can buy like a regular game nowadays, a lot of times they'll have extra features that you can pay for later. But what's different about Blood Dragon is you don't need the original Far Cry 3 disc in order to play it.
Okay, and how much is it?
It's about $15.
$15. That's a pretty good price.
Yeah, it's definitely a good price. Lengthwise, it's pretty good size for DLC. Most of the time, they're pretty short. You know, maybe like 2 or 3 chapters in a little story. But this one's a pretty decent size.
All right, tell me the story of Far Cry 3.
So this is a 1980s look into the future. What people imagine the 80s, the future would be like, and this is their vision of it.
All right, so if you're living in the 80s.
What you imagine the future's going to be is this. It's a post-apocalyptic world.
Okay, and what's happening? What are you fighting?
So you're essentially, it's a 1980s cartoon, essentially. I compare it a lot to G.I. Joe, based on like how it looks, like the fact that you're shooting laser beams and like everything's got like neon and like sharp and fast and all that stuff.
Okay, so you're just fighting bad guys?
Not just bad guys, but you're also fighting dragons, which are creatures that they have a couple different styles. Some of them fly, some of them even work for the bad guys. But one of the things that Far Cry 3 had was all these wild animals that you could hunt and take down. That comes back in this game too. You can hunt the different types of dragons and defeat them, and then get their stuff and get a lot of experience. In Far Cry 3, what you did for a lot of the equipment you could get or upgrades is you'd hunt down specific animals. That kind of makes a return. You hunt down several dragons to get better experience points to level up. And all that stuff to make it more. This game feels a lot more RPG-ish because in Far Cry 3 you had like almost like a skill tree. You could choose to upgrade this spot, or you can choose to upgrade this. This one's a lot more streamlined. It makes the choices for you. Mm-hmm. So level 5 you get an upgrade of health that you don't have an option. At level 10 you get an upgrade in different weapons. By each level you get certain upgrades.
Right, so is this a giant sandbox, or are you just going from place to place?
It's not a sandbox per se, because it's pretty story based. You can walk around, you can shoot a bunch of different kind of animals, but it's more story based, and that's what I kind of liked about it. See, my problem with Far Cry 3 was how long it was. It was a very long game, and there's certain points where it's like just dragging on. And you're like, okay, can I please just move on with the story? This one, you feel that a little bit, but because it's a shorter DLC, you don't feel it entirely. It's still a lot of fun. It's a really stylistic kind of game. Very 80s influence with neon and like, I don't know, bright lights.
Okay, how's the gameplay for a beginner to an expert?
I never played any of the Far Cry 1 or 2. I only played 3. It can be a little challenging at first, but I feel like the DLC is easier. It's a standard first-person shooter. You're walking around, shooting people. Some of the cooler aspects is you have a bow and arrow, much like the original game. That's a lot of fun to use. If you're an expert or you're a regular gamer, you have no problem. If you're new, then it might take you a while, but you get used to it.
What sets this apart from others that would make you want to play?
Mostly because you don't need Far Cry 3 for this game.
So it's the price, you're saying?
Yeah, it's, you get kind of the experience of Far Cry 3 in a different style, but not in a $60 game.
So from a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon?
8.
8. All right, very good. This is Alan and Joey for Secret City Geek Lab Video Game Review. You're listening to KTST-FM. I'm Alan Ng, and this is the Secret City Geek Lab. Coming up next in our video reviews is Dead Island Riptide. The survivors of Banoi thought that they had escaped the terrors of the tropical island and survived the apocalypse on a corrupted paradise. Then their fate turns for the worse. Suddenly they find themselves struggling for their lives again, with all hope drowning in the rising waves. Dead Island Riptide reanimates the zombie terror for a second battle for life against the dead. You have 4 returning characters plus a 5th brand new one with all new and unique skill sets. The combined skills of the group will be sorely needed, since terribly new and unknown zombie mutations have emerged all over the island. In new hub defensive missions, the co-op teamwork skills of the survivors will be tested to the limit. They need to strategically place traps, fences, and turrets to fend off the oncoming zombie onslaught and to protect the humans from their sanctuaries. New communication features in co-op mode allow players to enjoy even more intense and strategic team experience, and new vehicles give you the alternative means of dealing with the onslaught, while dynamic weather conditions will force the team members to adapt to changing visibility conditions. Will Acker has our review.
All right, we're doing a video game review with Will Acker, and the name of the game is
Dead Island Riptide.
All right, tell me, what is it about?
Dead Island Riptide is the sequel to the original Dead Island. The game kind of starts off at the end after you've escaped the tropical paradise you had kind of escaped from the first game, to be thrown kind of back onto a separate island, and now you're trying to escape the zombie hordes who have now infected this island, and you're trying to get off and get to a military base on the other side.
Okay, so it's a survival game. Get from point A to point B.
Basically, kill zombies along the way, do quests.
Okay, and are you gaining weapons? Or how are you able to progress in the game?
The game works in the sense of you kind of start off with a few basic weapons, knives, bats, swords, kind of basic stuff. And then as you progress through the game and you complete quests, you get better weapons. You can even get to rifles and guns at a certain point. Weapons do degrade over a period of time, so as you use them, they start to become weaker and weaker. And
so you have to find new weapons.
Exactly. You have to keep your arsenal kind of going.
What kind of skill level do you need to succeed in this game?
It's honestly a very basic game. It's the game's really set up more for multiplayer mode, where it really helps if you have more people kind of going in and fighting the zombies together.
It's a cooperative game.
It is a cooperative game.
So you'll go online and you'll either have friends or find friends to play the game.
Correct. There is a single-player mode, which is the same storyline, but it's a little bit more difficult to play by yourself. You don't really have anyone watching your back, and you kind of have it's a little bit of a harder time kind of paying attention to all the zombies kind of coming at you.
Okay, and the game is on for all the consoles?
Yes, Xbox 360, PS3, and I believe it's on Steam as well.
What did you play it on?
I played it on an Xbox 360.
And how was the gameplay with others, the online mode?
I mean, it's great. I didn't really particularly have any friends who were playing it, so I had just a
party matchup.
A party matchup, yeah, nothing special.
Okay, and then the networking fine.
Networking fine. It's what Xbox Live does, and they're pretty good at it. So.
Okay, what did you like about the game?
I liked the idea that you're not the traditional zombie shooter killer kill zombies. You're not in a metropolis scene. You're not in like a hospital. You're on an island, so you have this very clash of this infected zombie horde coming at you behind this beautiful paradise of the Philippines, I believe it was. They didn't really specify where they were.
Okay, so you're saying the graphics look great?
Graphics are great. You're in the water a lot of the time because you're on an island, so the water's serene, and then like you've got the zombies coming at you, and everything looks. I mean, it's a beautiful game. Graphics are very well done.
Okay, and there's a health system where you run out of health. And
yeah, you get attacked by zombies, you lose health, you die.
All right. Anything else you liked about it?
I liked the idea that that weapons degrade, because in a lot of games like that, you have a weapon and you'll just constantly attack things with it, and then you get a better weapon. But this is, you really had to strategize on where you were going to go. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to fight these zombies, how many zombies could you honestly kill off with your weapon, and then could you potentially find a new one, or did you want to go back and maybe find an easier weapon so you had a couple more to work with? I really liked that idea, as well as you had a stamina bar, so if you hit so many times that your character would run out of like stamina and they'd get tired, and then if you got attacked by a zombie, you'd fall down. And there were little things like that were really great about the game.
What did you not like about the game?
Now, saying that, the game was trying to be 2-in-1. It was trying to be a first-person shooter and trying to be an RPG, and it kind of failed on all aspects. There was nothing really exciting about the quests that they gave you. It'd be, go over there, fight zombies, get something, come back. Go over there, save that guy, fight zombies, come back. There was nothing really exciting about it. There was just kind of bland gameplay, bland and boring. It was kind of like they threw you in a system, and they're like, here, play with zombies. And you got to play with the zombies, but after 5 minutes, I kind of got
So they're giving you missions and fairly mundane missions.
Exactly. There was no real... like out of the ordinary stuff that you had to go do. There was just like, it was just basic, bland, generic RPG stuff.
Okay, how much was the game?
It was
like
$59.99, $60.
Okay, they were usual $60, and so you're saying it's really not worth it?
No, unfortunately, it's not. If you liked Dead Island and if you're into that kind of stuff, I mean, I suggest it, but honestly, the game kind of fell flat. Storyline was okay at best, and everything else just didn't really kind of wrap together on it.
All right, from a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate
Unfortunately, I have to give it a 4.
4. Okay. Well, this is Alan, and I'm with Will for our video game review.
You listen to KTSTFM and the Secret City Geek Lab. I'm Alan Ng, and this is the end of our show. This has been episode 10 of Secret City Geek Lab. It was brought to you by Secret City Comic Society, Fullerton's best all-ages improv comedy. Come back next week for more news and updates in the world of geekdom and nerdity. Also visit us online for daily geek news and reviews of comic books, movies, and television and video games at secretcitycomedy.com/geeklab. Big thank you to Will Acker, Melissa Kirkpatrick, Sophia Bein, and Joey Shope. For Secret City Geek Lab, this is Alan A, and hoping you have a really great week. You're now going to play out. We'll talk to you again.